Hey everyone, welcome to week 3. I'd like to start off by talking about nature versus nurture in our book. In our book, nature versus nurture is expressed as genetics versus environment, as well as nature versus nurture. And it explains how children receive 50% of their genes from their parents, but are also embedded in the environment strongly mediated by the family. So genetics do very well play a role, but the environment is an equal role in how they turn out. So nature versus nurture, in any conversation, it's kind of like the basis of psychology, in my opinion. If you talk about psychology with your friends, colleagues, or other people you meet, you might find yourself in the middle of a debate of nature versus nurture. So what is nature? The meaning of nature is it refers to the genetics and all the factors that are inherited, whereas nurture refers to the variables of the environment around the child, things you get from the world around you after you are born. Some examples of nature would be the nature of the individual plays a big role. Nature has endowed her with beauty and intelligence. She has never seen the pettish side of his nature before. Violence is abhorrent to his gentle nature. She trusted people, that was her nature. She was a trusting person. Examples of nurture. Nurture is what shapes the individual's character. They feel nurture is infinitely greater importance than nature. The antagonism between nature and nurture controls their fate. And just nurture, in my opinion, is like the overall environment, upbringing, and life experiences determine what our behaviors are. We are nurtured to behave certain ways, whereas in nature, it's our personality traits and abilities which are our nature. It's what we get from our parents. Now, me personally, I feel like I'm a great example of nature versus nurture. I'm half adopted. My mom is my actual biological mom. My dad is my adoptive dad. So, nature versus nurture, I ended up meeting my biological dad way later in life. And I ended up seeing, and it filled in a lot of those nature gaps that I was looking for. It explained why I did certain things. And when I met him, it explained a lot. It explained like why I always get bloody noses all the time so frequently. He gets them all the time. Why I tan so much more. My dad tans very easily. He's Native American. I'm Native American. Nurture, however, I bounced in between various households when I was younger. One could say my childhood house was quite chaotic, and ended up being placed in another household. I was raised by my grandparents later in life. But I ended up going through counseling because I was severely lacking on the nurture aspect of childhood. My parents were always fighting, and because of that, now in future, whenever there's fighting or some kind of situation like that comes up, I tend to shut down. I would shut down to alleviate the pain of those fights in my youth, and now I was nurtured that way to where in my adulthood I still tend to shut down in conflicts. Whereas when I went to counseling, I was able to really open up and talk to the counselor, say things that I was never allowed to say in my youth. And that counselor really gave me that level of warmth and comfort and security that I did not have. And they ended up nurturing me to show me that there is warmth and openness and security in other situations. I was in a not so good situation growing up. And that feeling of security and safety that counselor gave me really opened me up and showed me how strong and good counseling is for a person. So I believe that counseling is very impactful, especially on youth. I went to a counselor as a youth, and that's what kind of guided me towards becoming a counselor. I want to be able to give what I receive from a counselor to the future youth, because the youth are our future. I strongly believe that it is important to address the problems at their source, and a lot of people who end up having strong psychological problems is because of something that happened in their youth. So I believe addressing it at its source before it gets worse is the way to go. But nature versus nurture, I love this subject. I've done quite a few projects on it. But yeah, sorry for being a little long-winded, but yeah, I could have gone 15, 20 minutes even deeper.